Welcome to Retirement Dreams. I'm your host, Greg Kellogg. This week, I want to take a look back at my life so I can try to explain why I want to travel so much when I retire. My life starts in northern Iowa. I was born in Mason City, raised in Charles City. This is where my father's family came from. Charles City, sleepy little town of about 10,000 people. It's a very nice community. And as you can see by the picture, I was raised for sports. I started out early. I loved to play, and that was just fine with me. But then the journeys began. Dad's family was from Iowa, but my mom's was from West Virginia. So we decided that we would move to West Virginia so that Mom's family could see the kids, and so we could have another baby brother in the family. Jeff was born in West Virginia. I was 2-3 years old when it happened, and that's where we began. He was born in 58. I was born late in 55, so we headed off for West Virginia. So what I found at a young age is that nothing in life is permanent. My dad's family missed our family, so we packed up and moved back to Charles City. November of 1960, my kid brother Kenny was born. So we ended up with my sister Pat being born in West Virginia along with Jeff, and myself and Kenny being born in Iowa. Only now it's Mom's family that's missing us, so at the tender age of 5, we packed up again and headed back to West Virginia. Family of 6, Mom, Dad, 4 kids, on the road to West Virginia. So after 3 years in West Virginia, Dad had the opportunity to be a foreman either in Wisconsin or Michigan for Food Machinery Corporation, better known as FMC. He chose Michigan. We packed up, headed for Lansing. 2 years later, Dad had the opportunity to switch over to a white-collar job, and he also had the opportunity to move to a more rural community that he thought would be better for his kids. So we packed up again and moved to Ovid, Michigan, where I spent the remainder of my childhood until college. During those years, we still went on vacation. I played sports, including basketball. I went to the junior prom and the senior prom, and I met the love of my life, my little Janie. Now, I chose to go to Michigan Tech. That's up in Houghton, Michigan. It's cold up there, very, very cold. My best memories of college, coming home on vacation and spending time with Janie. Eventually, the cold got to me, so I did what any teenage kid would do. I quit college. Moved back home. My best friend talked me into moving to California, so we packed up our car and we headed for Huntington Beach, California. Stayed there as long as we could afford it. I ended up asking to marry Janie, so I came back to Michigan. Well, I didn't really have a good job, so I decided to join the Army. Joining the Army sent me to basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. But that's just the start of my Army career. I went from basic to Goodfellow Air Force Base in Texas for advanced individual training. From Goodfellow, I went to Fort Devens for a short field training exercise. And from Fort Devens, I headed off to California to get trained in Russian. Because the Army is good about giving you leave, on the way to California, I stopped off in Michigan to see Janie and actually see my kid brother play Magic Johnson in a summer league basketball game. Then Kenny and I went from Ovid, Michigan to Monterey, California. Kenny drove, I think, 20 minutes. I drove the rest. On June 26, 1977, before I headed to Monterey for Russian language, my daughter Yvette was born in Owasso, Michigan. Janie and I were now parents. Once I completed my Russian language training, the Army was ready to send me overseas. Destination Augsburg, Germany. I went over alone, flew into Frankfurt, and then I hopped a train down to Augsburg. Looked for housing, found housing, and then I brought Janie over. Janie and Yvette, and Janie was 8 months pregnant. So we got set up in Augsburg, Germany, and were blessed with our second child. Rita Babette Kellogg was born October 15th, 1978. My folks came over and visited us while we were there, and then we were blessed with our third and final child, Paula Constantine Kellogg, born October 31st, 1979. After 4 years in Germany, it was time to come home. I was assigned to Fort George G. Meade, Maryland, the National Security Agency. I spent 4 years at the National Security Agency when I decided to leave the service and go to work for a civilian company. Moved the family to Sterling, Virginia, where I worked on Army Command and Control software. Did that for 3 years when I was given the opportunity to move to Europe and work for the Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe. This was in Belgium. The NATO's in Brussels, but we were in Brunsum when I was working there. We lived in Braine-l'Alleud for 18 months when I was asked to go to the Netherlands and perform basically the same job there in Maastricht. Did that for 18 months, and it was time to come home. Now, I've had very few regrets in my life, but one of the big ones I have is when it was time to leave NATO, I was given the opportunity to travel on the QE2 from London to New York City. We would have had to get down from New York City to Atlanta, Georgia, because that's the area we were settling in. Instead, we flew back to save a couple days. So my family missed out on a great opportunity, and I regret that to this day. So we settled into Noonan, Georgia, where the kids went to high school, graduated, and I worked for the Army teaching their command and control software. After a while, I was offered the opportunity to go to work for Fox Sports and run their fantasy football page. So we packed up the family and we headed for California. Unfortunately, the Fox Sports job only lasted a year before it went away. So I found work out at Edwards Air Force Base working command and control software again. That job lasted 6 years before I was given the opportunity to go to work for a Canadian company, OpenText. This job allowed me to work from anywhere in the U.S., so we packed our things once again and we moved to South Texas where we could be closer to my folks because my dad had health issues at the time. But now we're settled into Aransas Pass, and although I love this town, great location, great fishing, great crabbing, wonderful aquatic center, there's a lot of the world that I still want to see. There are 4 states I haven't been to yet. I'd like to get into those. I've only been to 25 countries out of 195. Well, I'll never see all of them, but I would like to double what I have seen before I die. So with that, that's why I still want to travel.